All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It's been a minute. Not really. It's just been 7 days. But I'm here to do. Um, I'm here to tell you a story. Not really a story. It is a story, but it's more of like what happened, which I guess is a story. And I'm gonna be eating, so it's a mukbang. If you're not familiar with a mukbang is, it's when people eat and tell you stories and talk. So that's what I'm gonna do today. I have my lovely. Can you see that? Lovely chipotle here. It's so good. About to dive in. But yeah, let's eat this chipotle and let's get into this story. All right. So back in when was it? Ooh, back in 20. I believe it was back in 20 um 17 or 18. It may have been 2017 or 2018. I think it was 2018. I got the urge to buy a motorcycle. I don't know where it came from. I started doing research. And you know when you get the urge to buy something that you start doing research, and I know specifically for guys, I don't know about how it is for girls, but for guys, like we watch all the YouTube videos that there are out there about this one certain thing that we want. So that's what I started doing. I started watching all these YouTube videos about motorcycles. I wanted a motorcycle back in 2018. So I was like, okay, started doing this research. Mind you, I was still in college at the time. So I started doing all this research to get a motorcycle. And when my birthday rolled around, I actually bought it. So I, sorry, I'm still trying to figure out how to eat and to do these videos at the same time, but I'm figuring it out. So I bought a motorcycle 2018. I believe it's 2018. Bought a motorcycle in 2018. And I really wanted it. Bought it on my birthday. Literally on my birthday, I bought that motorcycle. It was a CBR 300. And I'll put a picture of it up for you all so you all can see what that is. But yeah, I bought a CBR 300. And that's not really a fast bike at all. It is a sports bike, but it's not a fast bike. It's really a beginner learner bike. And I had no prior experience. So actually how I got the bike to back to campus where I was staying, I had to get a friend to literally drive it back, and I followed him in my car because I didn't know how to ride a motorcycle at all. I didn't have a motorcycle license, didn't know how to ride anything. So I followed him back to campus and he rode it, and it was brand spanking new, like no one had ever owned it before. It was great. So I had that for a couple of years, and then I started having car problems. And we all know when you're having car problems, it's not great. It gets expensive, and transportation is necessary, especially if you live in the South. For those who live like in New York or Chicago and stuff like that, where y'all have like subways and public transportation is great. When you live in the South, everything is spread out. So there's no, like, public transportation is not really an option. It's there, but you'll take forever, and it doesn't go everywhere. It usually only goes in the inner cities. So that being said, I needed transportation, especially getting back home from college. Um, Getting back home, that was necessary. So I was like, yeah, this needs to go. So it was around, I was coming up onto like my final year of school, of college, and I was like, yeah, I need to get rid of this motorcycle because I need a car and I need to use this as a down payment for my car. So I sold the motorcycle. It was a bittersweet kind of thing. I sold my motorcycle, got the money, and I used that as a down payment on my car, which I still have that car. I love my car, Honda Civic Si. I love my car. That's my dream car, and I was fortunate enough to get it. And that's a whole another story I can go into for another day, but that's not what we're talking about today. So I sold that motorcycle, got my car, and it was great. And it still is great because I still have the car. So let's fast forward a couple of years, and I think it's like 2021 or 22 now. I've already had my car for a while, but I wanted a truck. And again, I don't know where this came from. It's just kind of came over me. I was like, I need a truck. And I was like, every guy needs a truck. And so I started doing research. And I was like, I need to find a truck. So my parents found this truck where they live. And so I bought it. I flew down to them, bought it, and drove it all the way back. I had this truck for a while. It ran fine. Didn't have any really issues with it. It ran perfectly. But I didn't really use it a lot. And it kind of just sat around and collected dust. And I felt bad about it because I was always using my car to go back and forth. I was not using that as my daily. I was using my car as my daily. And so it came to me. I was like, I think I want another motorcycle. And at this point, I was already like stable in my career, already married. The truck was just sitting there collecting dust, not being used, and I was like, it's just gonna rot away if I just let it sit here. So I should get rid of it now while it still has some type of value and do something with it. So I posted my truck online for sale or trade. And I was like, I'll sell it or I'll trade it for a motorcycle. So I put it online, and I was waiting to see if anybody would like get back with me about, you know, wanting it. And when I tell you, I I think the truck was on there for like 6 months. And at first I wasn't being um, persistent about selling it, but then when I decided to trade it for a motorcycle, I was much more persistent. And I was messaging everybody that I saw on Facebook. I was like, "Hey, do you want a truck? Do you want to trade your bike for a truck?" And everyone was like, "No, no, 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 no." And I was just like, "My goodness," I was getting discouraged. So I literally prayed about it. I just prayed. I was like, "God, let your will be done in this situation. If it's your will, let me get the perfect motorcycle, because I don't want anything cheap that's just gonna break down." And I don't want to just trade it because I'm anxious to get a motorcycle. So I met this one guy. I drove about 45 minutes from where I live to go meet this guy that had a motorcycle. It was a really big motorcycle, and I don't like big motorcycles. I like smaller motorcycles. Um, One, because I feel like I'm still in the novice stage. I'm not an expert on motorcycles, so smaller motorcycles are easier to handle than bigger ones are. Um, and so I really didn't want a huge motorcycle. And the one that he had was really big. It had like the Harley handlebars that were like way up here, and my hands were up here, and it was just a big bike. It was like, for those who are into motorcycles, it was a Vulcan 900, and 900 just means how large the engine is. Um, so mind you, I started on a 300, and now this is a 900. So that's a big jump from what I originally had. So I rode it, and it was really loud, and it was like backfiring, and it was just annoying. And I was just like, no, I don't really want this. But I was like, I'll take it anyway because this is like the first person who had actually wanted to meet and offer me something. So that being said, I went back to the guy. I was like, "Hey, you want to make the trade?" And when we opened the hood, there was like liquid or fluid or whatever just all over the engine, and that discouraged him from buying the truck. And for me, I told him, I was like, "Oh, this is not great. Like I'm not a person that tries to do any like shady stuff or shady trades or something like that." So I was like, "Yeah, I wouldn't want to trade with you anyway, even if he wanted to, because this is not right." So I took it back to the mechanic. They fixed it. It was a power steering leak. They fixed it next day. Literally next day they fixed it, and the truck was fine and wasn't doing anything. So I now had the truck still again. I started messaging people, and I messaged this one guy. And I was like, "Do you want to meet?" And I saw a motorcycle that I liked. And so he was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll meet." So we met up, and he liked the motorcycle. I mean, I liked the motorcycle and he liked the truck. We drove it. I drove his motorcycle, and mind you, this was still a bigger motorcycle. It was a 650. Again, engine size, 650, which is still big, but it's not as big as a 900. And so it was like that middle ground, and it was something that I could manage and kind of learn on, because one thing with smaller bikes, they're just learner bikes, and you kind of transition into a bigger bike. So once you get a smaller bike, you're only going to ride that for a short amount of time, and then you're going to want something bigger. And for me, like I said previously, I don't like huge bikes, but I did want something a little bit bigger than a 300. And this was a 650, so it was like that perfect middle ground. So I rode the bike. It rode perfectly. It wasn't loud. It wasn't backfiring. Didn't have any problems with it. And we did the trade. So that's a little bit about the story. But the biggest takeaway for me is just learning to have patience in this whole journey. Like, I had probably messaged over 200 people trying to trade for this motorcycle, trade my truck for a motorcycle, and I was getting discouraged because I was like, nobody wants to trade with me. I'm like, will I ever get this? I was getting anxious. I was just not even caring anymore. I was just like, let me just make a trade. I don't even care. But God humbled me and told me to like slow down. With my first experience going to go trade and it fell through, he allowed the truck to basically break down so the trade wouldn't happen, so that I could get something better and greater. So there's always a moral to like the stories that I tell here. um God always has a plan for you. Even if you try to go outside of his plan, he will somehow bring you back to the plan that he has always had for you. So I just want to encourage you all, whoever's out there watching this video, try your best, your hardest. I know sometimes in this world it can be hard to stay on the path that God wants for you. You want to deviate because you want to do your own thing, but try your hardest to stay on God's path, because God's path is ultimately always the best path. That being said, thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. And I didn't really finish my food, so I'm going to go do that now. But you already know what it is. Share it with your dog, your cat, your neighbor, your mailman, your mail lady. Anybody that you come in contact with, share it. And you already know what I'm about to say. I'm out, I'm out, I'm out. Woo, woo, woo.